crap, and then fun seekers, hey, I'm going to take you with me to do the other side of my life once again, which is HVAC. We just got hit here in Bradenton by Hurricane Milton, so I've had to step back into the HVAC arena a little bit to help out. Everybody's kind of slammed right now. Still a little warm in Florida, so figured I might as well make myself useful. So this is not car related content, but it's kind of dawned on me recently that a lot of the people that watch my channel may also be interested in, you know, rental property type stuff, real estate investing, fixing, do it DIY on houses and things like that. So I have another channel that I normally put this kind of thing on, but it doesn't really gain any traction. So I'm going to put it on here. We're going to my mother's house, who had a electronic fan motor called an X-13 that has failed. And I think everyone in Manatee County has failed, every one of those electronic motors. So we're going to go out there. I'm going to show you how to diagnose an X-13 motor failure. And we're going to swap it out with an aftermarket replacement, which I will probably put a link in the description in case anybody sees this video in the future and you want a good aftermarket replacement motor called an Evergreen. They're the ones that I prefer. You can probably just get one on Amazon, follow the steps in the video, and do it yourself and save a lot of money. A lot of these HVAC guys down here think those things are worth gold, and they're just not really. Nothing against HVAC guys, but unless the person is completely incapable of doing it themselves, this is pretty much a DIY type of project, if you ask me. My name's Jason, and this is Grease Belly Garage HVAC edition. Okay, we're at Mom's house here. I got one of those big blue easy readers so she can see the numbers. You're gonna turn your, she's got it off because the fan motor was acting wonky. First thing to do is turn the fan on from automatic to on, and then go to your air handler. Okay, this is the air handler closet. It's pretty typical. Now, I already know what the problem is with this unit because my mother described it to me, and the problem is the fan comes on, speeds up, goes off, comes back on, speeds up, goes off. It's probably doing that when it gets warm or whatever, the motor gets hot, the module gets hot. I'm going to go ahead and also replace this because according to the serial number, this unit was manufactured the 24th week of 2013, so it's I don't know, 11 years old, and I'm an AC guy and I already know what the problem is basically. But I'm going to show you guys at home how to diagnose these things, and the first thing you got to do is take this cover off. The fan motor is almost always on top. Bottom part down here is where your coil is going to be. I forgot my screw gun at home. You can also get these 6-way ratcheting screwdrivers. I think they're available on Amazon. I'll leave links to any of this stuff that I know exists. But you've got a fat, flat, and Phillips bit here, and then a 5/16 nut driver. You flip it around, you got a 1/4 inch nut driver with a small Phillips and flat bit inside of here. Almost all of these air handlers have 5/16 screws holding the panels on. Okay, motor finally quit. This is called an X-13 motor, and it's an electronic constant torque motor. You can retrofit these to a regular PFC motor, which is an old-fashioned one with a capacitor. That one has capacitors and speed taps and all that kind of crap in that module. Now, a lot of guys will replace just that module, which is a silver part. Let's see if you can see it better. Which is a silver round part at the end of the motor. But I can almost promise you every time that between, I don't know, 3 days and 3 months later, you're going to be right back replacing the motor anyway. So you might as well just replace the whole thing. Most of the time when these motors fail, they either make a bumping noise or they just refuse to start at all. I don't really need to test this one, but I'm going to show you how to test them in case yours isn't working at all. So when your disconnect off, which I did, and there's 2 harnesses in the side of this. This one is a carrier, so it's got 2 individual speed taps. We're going to pull those out. Make note of where they were. They're usually in the 2 and 4 spot. 8 is going to be the heat speed. Blue is going to be the cool speed. 2, white is 4. So this is the 2 low voltage tap speeds from the thermostat. Okay. The other harness is high voltage. We're just going to unplug this whole thing. It's one assembly. Sometimes they're a little finicky. There it goes. Okay. This harness here has brown, which is the negative to the speed taps up here. So brown is negative to the 2 speed taps. Those are supposed to have 26 volts. Green is ground to the high voltage. Black is one leg of high voltage at 120. And yellow is the other leg at 120 volts. So I'm going to go turn the thermostat to fan on and get my $1 million tester. I'm going to test this brown negative to the blue for cool. It's not going to call for white because we don't have it on heat. And I'm going to test for 240 volts across the yellow and black. And I'm going to take my tester, set it on the low voltage AC power scale, and I'm going to stick one probe into cool, like that, and one probe into the brown of this. My light, we got 28.3 volts. That's our low voltage signal. Now I'm going to put it to the higher AC voltage scale. I'm going to put one probe on black, one probe on yellow. It's beeping. That tells me good news. 242 volts. If you have that and your X-13 motor does not work, you have a bad X-13 motor or module. And like I said, you're better off to replace it all as one assembly. So I'm going to turn the power back off and pull this thing out. Okay, the power's off. This carrier comes out one big assembly, and there's basically 2 screws at the top that hold it in, and one screw you have to take out for the ground. My tripod sucks. The screws are located up here. There's one on this side and one on this side, and then the one for the ground I always take it out first. Get my tester out of the way. Don't lose your screws like I just did. Now I'm just going to slide this whole cartridge out as one assembly. Our wiring out of the way. Except we got a zip tie. Little trick for zip ties, cable ties. When you have them, just grab the zippy part with a pair of pliers and then just twist it. That usually breaks them right off. There we go. Just grab it and twist it with your pliers and it breaks it right in half. Get all this out of the way. Now this will just slide right out. First thing I'm going to do is spray Kroil. You'll see a lot of Will It Run video guys using this stuff. I've been using it for about 25 years in the HVAC business because that's where I first ran around it and ran into it. Lube those up. And the most important thing to lube up and sand down is this shaft right here. But before you spray anything on it at all, it's imperative, and I mean imperative, that you sand this thing until it's shiny smooth. If you don't, you will not get this motor shaft through that hub. It'll mushroom trying to beat it with a hammer, and you'll end up trashing the blower wheel and putting the new fan motor in with the new blower wheel and taking the whole thing apart, making a lot more work for yourself. So So this is like screen emery cloth. Tear a piece of this off. That. Put the rubber band around on it again. Somebody in my mom's neighborhood is smoking some of that wacky weed. So hopefully I can get through this with all my cognitive skills intact. There's a flat on this shaft of the motor. That's where this set screw holds against, holds the blower wheel hub onto the motor shaft. I'm just going to take this, and I don't worry about the flat too much. Take the round part, take this wire mesh sanding screen, and just sand the snot out of this thing. Okay, here's a better look at what I was doing with this emery cloth here. Basically just going around the curved part of this shaft, not the flat over here where the set screw is, but just the other rounded part. And I just got in there and kind of worked this stuff back and forth like this. You can fold this in half and kind of get more leverage on it. Just kind of do this. Slow and steady. I've got it down to where it's relatively shiny but very smooth now. So the next thing I'll do is load it up with some of this Kroil. Let that work its way down in there. And then I'll take this set screw out. Now I don't have my adjustable wrench with me. I really recommend that people not try to do this with channel locks, but I'm going to because that's the way I roll. My mom probably has an adjustable wrench, so if I can't get this, I don't have to go inside and dig around her tools and see if she's got one. Now I just take this all the way out just to get it out of the equation, and you can also use the hole that this screw went into the side of that hub and go ahead and load it up with some more Kroil. Down in there like that. Gives you a little more access hole. Now this is the next important part here. I really shouldn't be doing this with channel locks, but like I said, I have a lot of confidence in my skill set here. I'm going to set this channel lock. These motor shafts are designed with a flat side so you can turn them with a wrench. I'm going to try to do this with a pair of channel locks, and what you do is you hold the shaft as hard as you can and then move the, there you go, see that? You get this hub spinning on the blower, and I work it back and forth a couple of times, going a little bit further each time, back and forth, back and forth. And then we're going a complete 360 now. And it's actually gone down the shaft. It's hard to see that, but it's gone down on the shaft a little bit, which is good because now we can load it up with more Kroil. Because when you pull this motor out, it comes through the other side, and that's where you're going to have your hang-ups if you've got any debris or burrs or lumps of rust or anything around here. So I've pretty much coated it with a lot of Kroil, and I'm going to, for good measure, I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the emery one more time, the emery screen. The Kroil also kind of helps this stuff bite into that rusty crud, just to make sure it's all gone. And gets it off of there a little bit better, because when stuff gets down in this little crack around the hub and the shaft, it acts like a wedge, and you can totally destroy the blower wheel trying to get these things apart. I've had to torch them before. There's a puller tool you can get that doesn't really work too good, but I've had those before. So we're just gonna let that go and let it soak in for a while we take the belly band bolts out on the other side. Now we're going to flip the entire assembly over onto the lead end side of the motor. This is a shaft end, the other end is a lead end. right here like that. So we got to take these bolts out that bolt the belly band assembly into the blower wheel. Squirrel cage. There's all kinds of terminology with this stuff that people use. Okay, got all 4 of the bolts holding the belly band into the squirrel cage loose. Now the fun part is getting it out, getting the shaft out of the blower assembly. I take this, turn it upside down, and put this far corner right here on the corner or on the edge of my workbench. So it'll sit like this. I got the corner resting on the edge of my workbench. I'm going to go in here with my channel locks and start turning this motor shaft back and forth relatively quickly. And that will help work the shaft through the hub. And this is where an adjustable wrench does a much better job than this. And then we can tap a little bit. It's starting to go all the way through now. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's starting to really go all the way through. So when you get to a point where you can't reach it anymore, you can give it a little tap. And it's going through the hub, and it's about halfway through the hub now. And there it went. It's free. Now we just have an empty squirrel cage. Now, a lot of guys will flip out and say, you need to go clean this thing. This one is not that dirty, so I'm not going to waste my time doing that. If they get caked up in between all these fins with a lot of dog hair and stuff, yeah, clean it out. If you want to be prim and proper, yeah, go ahead and clean it out. But I'm not going to clean this one because it's 11 years old and my mother has a yellow lab. This thing's going to be dirty again in no time with dog hair. So I'm just going to set this to the side. There's our old motor. And now we're at the fun part. This is called a belly band. These are your support straps or whatever they're called. You can see on the shaft of the motor, well, that doesn't sound good at all, that grinding sound. You can see where it was rusty below and it was rusty above the same way, but that's where I sanded it off. And even still, there was a little line there where it met that hub. That's where a lot of guys go wrong trying to get these apart. A lot of DIY people mess that up. So this is going to have, you're supposed to pay attention to where this wiring harness is oriented, but I can show you that when I put it back together so that you get this in the right spot. This is going to be a, pretty sure it's 7/16, but I don't have that either, so I'm going to try to just get this loose the old-fashioned way. A lot of times these are rusty as well. This one's in pretty good shape. A bit of a moron, I forgot that I had my socket set with me in the back of the Excursion. Loosen this up. Arms out. Now take note of where this belly band is. It's right in between these two vented spots. And I'll show you in a minute why that makes a difference. Okay, now this should come off. Okay, this is an Evergreen EM, it's called. It's a replacement for an X-13. This company makes several different multi-speed motor, outdoor condenser, multi-speeds here. We got you got one that will replace a PSC motor. This is a constant airflow, variable speed, electronic control motor. I hate those. Those are like in a lot of trains and stuff. And this is an X-13. That's what we have here. And this is really good stuff. I've never had one of these fail in probably 12, 14 years of using them. And the important part on an X-13 motor is on the end of this thing, or on the data sticker, you'll see the horsepower rating. And this one is you can see that, 3/4 horsepower. So the one I bought is also 3/4 horsepower. That's our old motor, and this is the new motor out of the box. And you can see in this particular case, they're pretty much the same exact size, so we're not going to have any issues. It's okay if this shaft goes through the fan motor further, because there's nothing on the other side to inhibit it. However, there are times when you buy these where you have to adjust the belly band closer to the shaft end of the motor, or closer to the lead end of the motor, to position this correctly so the face of the motor doesn't touch into the hub of the blower wheel and mess everything up. This, I should be able to put the belly band in the same exact spot, which is going to be about right here. Like if you look at this other one here, you can even see the pattern where it was. So we'll just do it in the same exact spot, more or less. The other thing you have to do on these universal motors is there's a sticker here to cover up the wiring harness plug-in. Now I always take this off. Stick it to the old, well, the old motor can go bye-bye now. We're done with that. It's history. Okay. The other thing you have to do is this is designed to replace a 115 volt motor or 230 volt motor, and that comes with this accessory kit here. It's got a wiring harness for retrofitting a PSC motor to one of these. You get a wiring harness to go with it. You get a sticker. You get some more terminals. And I keep all these things for extra parts for my duplexes that I have. And then inside here too, there's also a white plug and a yellow plug. We need the yellow plug because we're operating a 230 volt AC here. So I'm just going to tear a little hole in the bag and pull out this little yellow plug right here, and where it goes is right here in the side of the motor. Somehow, some way, I never can get these the first time because I can't see anymore. I feel like my entire life is dictated by reading glasses anymore. There you go. Started it down in there. We'll just push it down in there until it's fully seated like that, and that's good. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and plop this belly band back on there. And I usually just go ahead and throw this on here first. Now, if you need to take pictures of this stuff before you disassemble it, so you know how it goes. Like I said, I've done this so many times that it doesn't really matter for me to do that anymore. So we're going to assemble that about right there. We're going to make sure that we keep these feet from occluding our wiring harness right here, then back in there. You also want to make sure you don't hit your voltage plug-in thingy. So get all these. They go just like that because the legs hold it to the side of the blower wheel. And this doesn't have to be all lined up perfect and exact because you want to tighten up your nut and your bolt a little bit first before you worry too much with that stuff. It's there. Got the belly band about where I want it now. And it's not just haphazardly flopping around. Now we'll go ahead and tighten this thing down for good. Okay, you get it tight enough to where you start feeling pretty decent resistance, and then there. I can already tell you that's going to be good enough. Don't want any of this stuff moving, sloppiness. Everything's lined up really good. Now we're going to put it back into the squirrel cage. Squirrel cage has two sides. This is the side where you're going to put the set screw in and where the shaft pokes out, coming at you this way. This way is where the motor slides in. for the lead end, and you've got your 4 bolt holes, speed nuts, or God, I forget what those things are called. Rib nuts. Those are rib nuts pressed in there to hold those bolts. So you're going to be looking at the module end of the motor here. Now, the assembly slid in like that. Now, I didn't bother to figure out where I needed to clock the wiring harness connector, but I know from experience, and you probably need to cover this if you're doing this yourself, when you're looking into the cabinet, you're looking this direction. So you're going to want that plug to be right in this area right in here, like say the 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock bolt position. So we're going to lay this on its side, kind of face that towards me. You want to know the label always faces outside of the cabinet. And we're going to take the motor, look directly at the wiring harness plug, and we're going to put the shaft down into the hole first. Kind of rotate it around just like that. And get these holes lined up a lot like that. And then we can go ahead and put these bolts back in. Now, when you put these bolts back in, you don't go wailing on all of them and tighten them all up right out of the gate. You have to start one with just a couple of threads. Make sure it started, and then start another one. Go around and do all 4 that way, because inevitably one of them won't line up if you go and start tightening them all down right away. So we're going to snug all these down. Always crisscross stuff. When you're torquing multiple bolts, doesn't matter if it's a car engine or intake manifold stuff, carburetor base plates, motor belly brackets. You want to spread that torque into this stuff evenly if possible. Go back around and just make sure they're tight. You don't want to go too crazy on these because they'll strip or bust the rib nuts out. Ask me how I know. If you look inside here, you can see this blower wheel will slide up and down the motor shaft. And what you want to do is you want to center the blower wheel in between the 2 shroud parts of this assembly here. So you want to have the space at the bottom and the top just about even. And you also want to have the flat of the motor lined up with the bolt hole, which I'm going to show you in just a second once I line it up. Here's the flat of the motor right here where my thumb is, and here is the hole, and I'm going to go ahead and start this bolt in here. But I'm not going to tighten it down yet. Sometimes you got to play games with this thing to get it to... There it goes. Okay, you can see it better now. Maybe you can see that much better. See how I've got it fairly well equidistant on each side of that shrouded part of this squirrel cage, and I'll just spin it a little bit in the proper direction, which is going to be towards us. And looks like it's going to clear, not make any noises. Now, I'll leave it on its side. Take the inappropriate channel locks. Well, I probably do have the correct wrench size in the truck. And we'll just tighten this thing down, crank it down pretty good. You do not want to over tighten this bolt or you'll snap it off in that hub, and that sucks when you do that. There we go. Just tight, and then one deep breath, and you got it. So it won't move. Kind of this metal in the shaft is pretty soft, so that bolt will just kind of set into it and leave a little dimple, and that kind of locks everything in place pretty well. We are good. We're going to go in there and slide this back together and reassemble everything and fire it up. Okay, when I slide this back in, there's two tracks, two channels up at the top that the lips of that carrier have to go into. Flop it up here. All right, that went right in. Here we go. Put our screws back in. Make sure you don't forget your ground wire. Connections on this new motor are exactly the same as the old motor. So I'm just going to take, now the power's still off, okay? You can't really mix up these harnesses. There's a dead one there, and there's a dead one right there, and you can see where they go together, just like that. The numbers on the other block go from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Heat always has a higher speed than cool. So white is heat. We're going to put that on number 4, which is the second terminal from the top. Blue, speed tap for cool. We'll go on number 2. I can't see. There it goes. Okay, we're in. So we're good and tight now. Not going to worry about a zip tie there. Those are pretty tight. Now I'm going to turn the power on to this motor, and this thing will automatically kind of set its own rotation and everything. So keep an eye on this. It's actually pretty interesting how this works. Okay, now we can see. I'm going to turn the power on. Okay. Now it's going to spin one direction and then stop. And then spin the opposite direction. And in this case, it'll probably stop and then go back this same direction. It automatically sets which direction it likes. So it's going to go the other direction. Now it's set. So we'll put the cover back on and call this good. Mom's AC is all up and running now with a new aftermarket X-13 motor. And by the way, this is a Klein insulated mug, and it's got a magnet here that will actually support that metal around here. I can show you, but it'll support the entire contents of the cup on this magnet, so you can hang it on the side of a car, air conditioning, something like that. So see one of these around somewhere. I might even be able to put a link down below for that too. They work really good, and they do not leak. Once you snap this lid shut, it just won't leak at all. It's really, really good, and it works really well. And it's a little bit more, it's a little tough looking. It's got a good grip on it, nice solid rubber base. So that's a little different kind of video for me, but maybe you learned a little bit about X-13 motors. Maybe you didn't. They're really not a big deal. They're not difficult to do at all. So if you have that problem, don't be afraid to take a crack at it, see how it goes. Appreciate you guys watching. Give me a thumbs up if you want to. Make sure you smash the bell and all that crap. I'll most certainly catch you on the flip side with more car content coming soon.